Okay, here I am. I am Michelle Kay. I'm a real estate agent with Compass Real Estate in Long Beach, California. And I do this show, Go Live Long Beach, where I interview different people concerning anything real estate related, anything Long Beach related. And I think I've had some pretty good guests on, pretty good information. We had Jennifer Sade, trust attorney. Last week, it was Kimberly Terrell who gave us a lot of good information on home insurance industry. Let's see. And then today I have lined up Stephanie Gutierrez. That last name always throws me on how I'm supposed to say that. But I met her at it was actually a political event. And what a little go-getter. I've labeled her the queen of the ADUs. Um, and we're here. I'm waiting for her to join. Um, she's on Instagram. She's at Steph Sells Homes, and she's got about 5,000 followers. And yeah, she's just a lot of information. So here we go. Here, Steph's coming on. All right, Stephanie, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So thank you for taking time out of
Oh
your
my God, thank you. I listened to your message right now, and I was hoping that I still made it, even though we had a cutoff.
Yeah,
So
you know what? This is so good because, like I said, when we just had that brief message, you're very technical. I wish I just want to like talk to you just about your Instagram page, like after this is over. But I always sort of wanted to start the show because like I said, I have to start it at a certain time for it to go out on all these feeds. And I always wondered if somebody came in later, if it works out. And so here you go. See, no problems. You're here.
so how are you, Michelle? Talk to me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. I was just saying, before you came on, I was telling them that we met at that political, just won't talk politics right now, but it's a
Yeah,
political fundraiser meet
right.
and greet. And yeah, I was like, oh, you're an agent. And then you were talking about the ADUs, and you had a seminar coming up in Huntington Beach at the time, which I couldn't
Correct.
attend because I was out of town. And you have another one. So I started following you on Instagram, and I said before you came on, I've decided to label you the queen of the ADUs. You,
Thank you for that.
yeah, and you're just, I don't know, your Instagram, like I said, you are just so cool. I just hope your coolness like rubs off
Thank
on me.
you. I thank you so much. I really appreciate it because I do put a lot of time and energy and effort into social media because that's where most people spend their time. So, and I enjoy doing it. I come from a marketing background, which I think we'll touch base on. You were curious to know how I got started.
Right, right.
So yeah, I mean, honestly, I've been in real estate for 10 years now. I started off as a receptionist at a Century 21 office in the South Bay in Hawthorne, Torrance area. And from there, I quickly scaled up to marketing director and recruiting for over 200 agents. So that's really where I learned the whole marketing strategy for realtors. From there, I ventured off and managed a few teams. I managed over 200 properties in Palm Springs. When I was married for a few years and did some work out there, some HOA management, property management, and marketing. Like marketing has always been there. And after my divorce in 2017, I decided to move back to Long Beach. Started working with my brother's team. My brother is also a realtor, and he
Okay.
has a team. And at the time, I was a buyer's agent under a team structure, and I was working strictly with buyers. And this was around 2017, so it was around the time when ADU legislation was coming about, and really, the word ADU was being thrown out because, as many of you guys know, ADUs have been around for a very long time. We just called it something else. We used to call them granny flats, rumpus rooms, casitas, and so that's kind of where this whole
Could I just ask you a
movement.
question?
Yeah.
What year was that first legislation passed where it was like, yes, you can do an ADU, you can do a junior unit? I mean, I know there's
It
been
was
like,
around like 2016, 2017. It was early
okay,
2017. But
Okay.
really, when it took off was when they made some modifications to the legislation in 2020,
Okay.
for both residential and multifamily. And that's really when things started taking off, and especially during COVID, when the rates came down and, this buyer frenzy started happening. More people were wanting to just know how they could build an ADU or convert. And so,
So
uh,
I interrupted you. So you were a buyer's agent. So, okay. So go ahead, go
yeah,
forward.
so I was just working with a lot of buyers, and that's how I started niching down into ADUs, because I was showing a lot of property and people kept asking me the same questions. What type of zoning is this? What is allowed here? What can I build here? And I found myself not knowing, the process, because, as realtors, we're wired a certain way to sell properties and look at properties from a different angle, and the brokerages as well. We were trained a certain way, and so there's nobody there to teach you the actual ADU process, from plans, design, permits, construction, and financing. So I decided to niche down and really educate myself and start going to local meetups, started building out my own network of people. And yeah, that's kind of how I ended up in the ADU space.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think you've made this yeah, I just sat and watched a lot of your your Instagrams before I got on, that you have. I love this one when you say you have the team, right? That like you can say you can put that team together for them, or you can refer them to a general contractor. But
Right.
so yeah, talk about, talk about this upcoming seminar, because let's just get that out there for people,
Thank
who are,
you.
yeah, who are really interested, because I think that, this is only a 20-minute, like I said, half-hour show,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And if it goes a little over, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Yeah, the event that I have coming up on the 24th is going to be ADU centric and more multifamily based. The first event that I had, which I invited you to, the one you couldn't go to, was more residential based, but it's
Okay.
very hyper focused in ADUs. And the whole purpose is to have people come together within the space of real estate and ADUs, and have people collaborate and create teams, because that's what worked for me. I didn't have a network of people that I could call. I didn't have an architect go-to person. I didn't have a civil engineer, structural engineer, local GCs, right? Like, I didn't have any of this network, that I had to build this network through relationships.
And
So
has it become like so busy, like doing construction, it's hard to find somebody, so you need to have
100%.
a lot of different people to pull from. Oh, you're busy, or this project works better for this person, right? So
100%. It's the busyness. It's also the just the functionality and the purpose of as to why they're building ADUs, because that's another separate conversation as well, right? There's different types of ADUs. There's different reasons why people build ADUs. If you're talking to a first-time home buyer, they may be doing them for cash flow and passive income purposes, maybe to help them offset their mortgage. If you're talking in the luxury market, they're building ADUs for that pool house or for a guest house, and so it different folks like to use different contractors for different reasons, and the good contractors are very busy right now, I'll tell you that. So if you have a contractor that's not as busy, I would question that. We're in such a high demand right now, and there's a shortage of everything, right? Like, there's a shortage of inventory. Maybe not now. We're kind of seeing some sort of
yeah, a little
weirdness
bit of a
happening in the market right now, right?
right.
But the shortage of inventory, shortage of labor, shortage of material, which has shot up the prices of construction. And yeah, it's sort of been a domino effect. So understanding like who you work with really matters. I like to share the horror stories on Instagram too, so people understand why it's so important to build a team. And you do it by creating relationships, right? I have stories where people say that the contractor left the job half done because it's taken so long to get permits, and now by the time you get permits, it doesn't make sense for the contractor to finish the job because they don't
Oh,
have enough for it, right? Like,
oh,
it's such
yeah,
so
yeah.
just looking out for things like that is my job. And I was just on the phone with a friend right now, and we really want to push more awareness and educate the community, because that's where it starts. If you educate yourself in the process, you're going to feel much more empowered to help others, and that's kind of where I decided to just niche down, and I started shifting my marketing on Instagram to ADU. ADU
Yeah.
stuff, you know.
Yeah. It's all ADU. You had a really interesting post yesterday, which I find interesting. I have a triplex coming up, which is always so interesting that people can live in it and get additional lending.
Right.
So in previous past, right, you couldn't use the income from an ADU to qualify for a loan. But from what I'm hearing, that's shifting. Has it shifted yet? Is it that change come?
Yes. So I was talking to my lender yesterday, and again, you have to be proactive when these new rules and regulations come about because as a realtor, and really just as anybody in the industry, nobody's going to come to you and give you this information. You have to go out and get it. So when I saw the post, people started texting me, "Hey, have you heard about this new ADU rule and legislation with Freddie Mac?" And I said no, and I called my lender kind of walked me through the process. There's still a lot of nuances that we have to see as to
Mm,
how this is going to come about,
mm,
but it's just awesome that now we can take the income into consideration, which is something
right,
we weren't able to do before. So if as a first-time home buyer, you're looking to buy a duplex, a triplex, or a fourplex, anything under 4 units, now we can take the income that these ADUs are generating to qualify you. And
yeah,
that's huge, right? And now
yeah,
you don't have to come up with 15 or 20% down. You can actually buy technically a duplex or a fourplex with 5% down. And so I think this is great because it's just a matter of time before hopefully FHA follows
right,
the
right.
same path, right? And
Yeah.
kind of streamlines the process for us.
All right,
Some of
because
the
that always was such a benefit for somebody starting out to buy a duplex and be able to get that with
right to help them
FHA.
offset.
Yeah, how many
Yeah,
people are just such a, starting place for young people. Yeah, it's
right.
great. Yeah,
Now,
because
one of the things that they did mention is it has to be a primary residence. It has to,
as it was.
you do have to have an appraisal done on the ADU just to make sure value's there. But here's the tricky part is there aren't enough ADUs. So how can you find comparables,
Huh,
right?
right,
So that is obviously going to take time to build because
gotcha.
the city of Long Beach, I think, is on a path to hopefully build at least another 500 ADUs, and so we're going to have these comparables, but we're not going to have them tomorrow. It's going to
Right.
take some time, but eventually we'll have comparables, and that's just going to help everybody. So I was excited for that. That's why I posted it yesterday.
Yeah, no, no, that is really exciting. That I think that that bill that they were trying to get passed, it was where you could take a certain size lot and subdivide it in order to put the ADU. And from what I had read, the theory behind why they were trying to pass that bill was so people could take loans because this wasn't in place. So
Exactly. Yeah, that
so
was just another creative way, with SB9, I think is what you're referring to.
yeah, right, right,
SB9 came into play this year, effective January 1st this year. So with SB9, you're allowed to subdivide lots and technically build. If you have one property and you subdivide the lot, you can technically build 3 ADUs, right? And
right, right.
or if you wanted to subdivide the lot and maybe sell off one parcel, keep the other, that's also an option. But I think that is great because it just gives homeowners more control over their assets and hopefully
Yeah,
keep that generational wealth within the family. There's a lot of first-time home buyers that want to have their parents live with them in the back house or whatever the case may be. A lot of the garage conversions here in LA and Long Beach area,
yeah,
I think over 70% of them are for either the grandparents or the high school kid or the college kid that wants his own private space and wants to
right.
live in the back house, and they want to customize it. So it's great. Like it's honestly a great strategy for investors, first time home buyers, sellers, past clients of yours, even realtors. Now I'm also encouraging realtors to implement the strategy so that we ourselves are implementing the ADU concept, right?
Right,
So we
right.
understand
Let's let's
it.
go let's go through it ourselves. So on that note, so I have a house in Los Altos. It's just a small 3-1,
I
but
love
it
that
does.
area, by the way.
What'd you say?
I love that area. I love Los
Yeah,
Altos.
I love my house, even though it's small, but it's just always been perfect. But it does have the double car garage. It's not attached. So I guess I was told, like, if the house has a crawl space, that you just can't take that garage because it's not the same construction as the house and just turn it into an ADU. Can you
Is,
tell me what I
is
can do in that
your
garage?
is your garage detached, you said, or attached?
Detached.
Okay. Then if it's detached, I don't see why you wouldn't be able to convert it into an ADU.
And what does that look like? I mean, is that pretty construction intensive? You know what I mean? Or is it
Well, when it comes to garage conversion, sometimes people think that it's less expensive, which it could be. It could very well be, but there's certain things that they have to look out for. You're going to have an architect and a GC go out there and actually do measurements on the garage, make sure that we're within setbacks, make sure that the footings for the garage are at least 12 inches. And if they're not, then you'll have to raise that. Unless you're looking to build on top of the garage. There's so many nuances, but the first step would be to get a feasibility study. So getting somebody out there to go out and take measurements and say, okay, this is what you can build within this space, and this is what we can convert the garage to, and they'll come up with 2 or 3 different plans that you can choose from that might be functional for whatever it is that you're looking for.
whatever my purposes might
Right.
be?
I always tell people, like, if it's a rental, if you're looking to build an ADU for rental, then maybe you don't want to go as high end on the finishes, but maybe you want some durable finishes. So somewhere in the middle, right? If you're looking to build it for yourself and you want to customize it, then maybe you do want to go a little bit higher end with the finishes and get a little bit more creative with the layout. It really is, your own preference. But all in all, I think that getting somebody out there to give you an estimate, it's no different than when we have a buyer consultation, right? You want to meet first and find out what it is that you can build. The second piece to that would be the financing piece, right? How are you going to finance this project? And one thing that I've noticed is there's a lot of miscommunication in the construction world, because let's say you want to build your garage. Typically, you'll go to a GC or an architect, and they're going to say, go to a lender, go figure out the financing portion first. And once you're pre-approved for the financing, then you come back to us and we'll get the ball rolling with that process. Where I think that's kind of not effective, because that's like if you and I were working with the first time home buyer and we tell the buyer, oh, go get pre-approved and come back to me when you're pre-approved. Like, that's not really being helpful and resourceful. And is the buyer really going to come back to you? Most likely not. They're probably going to go work with the lender's preferred realtor, right? So I like to streamline the process for my clients. So I'll set them up on a group chat, with the lender, the GC, and everybody together, so that we're all on board from the get-go, which is why I recorded that video about the team structure. As a realtor, we need to have our title rep, our escrow officer, our lender, our TC, and who else am I missing?
Escrow title. Did you say escrow title?
I said escrow, title, lender, and who else do we need?
Well, we need our brokers.
Yeah, exactly. Our brokers. So that's our team, right? So right. In the ADU world, it's no different. You need your lender, your architect, your GC, your structural and civil engineer.
And is a feasibility, but the feasibility is what you're suggesting, what you should start with.
Right. That's what you should definitely start with, because that is your blueprint. That's what allows you to see what it is that you can and can't build within your lot size, right?
And roughly how much would that cost to have somebody come?
What's the square footage? If it's usually a two-car garage is 20 by 20. So
it's what, so 400
right. Square feet. So you're probably looking to spend somewhere between 100 to 150 for that build out. And again, these are just rough estimates, because
no, I meant just the feasibility.
Oh, the feasibility. Yeah. That's a good question. Probably a couple $100. It's not that expensive.
It's not that expensive.
But typically, whoever you choose to work with, they'll do it, and it's kind of part of the package.
The package.
Right? Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's where you come in, huh?
Exactly.
You bring that whole package to the table.
Right.
For them. That's
right.
awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me think what else. Okay, so it doesn't have to be like, if the front house is a rental and you want to turn the garage into an ADU, you can rent them out. It doesn't have to be a primary residence in order to do an ADU, correct?
You would have to check with your local municipality because, for the most part, it should be primary.
Got it.
Yes,
Got it.
yes. But, it really just depends. I would definitely double check and check with your lender as well. Because even now for Freddie Mac, they're taking these ADU income into consideration, but it has to be a
To
primary.
be primary. Okay.
Yes,
Primary.
yeah.
Okay. There is, there's two sides, right? Like some people are
Right.
like, yeah, I love ADUs, but there's a lot,
100%.
right? A lot of people, and especially in like neighborhoods like Los Altos, I think everybody's really concerned about, we don't have to have the additional parking. And I think, anybody that's from Long Beach knows, those
The
areas,
parking situation here.
yeah, that got impacted from all that building that went on in the 80s. So what do you think? What do you say?
That's
I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but
no, I love this question because it's like everything. You're always going to have the people that are for it and the people that are for it and the people that are against it and just don't see the vision. I mean, I'm all for ADUs, but two things that I would say is do not overbuild and be considerate of parking in certain neighborhoods, and just be considerate of everything.
consider it. Yeah.
Neighborhoods, obviously in Los Altos, it's not going to be as favorable as it would in maybe downtown LA. But even in downtown LA, for example, we've had people who want to build or convert their garage, and we suggest to them, why don't you build on top of the garage so that you can keep the integrity of the parking space?
Yeah.
And at least we're being mindful of the tenants, and you know what I mean? Like, it's just,
Right.
yeah, that's my only take on it, is those two rules. Don't overbuild and be considerate, because even though the ADU laws are very friendly, you don't need to provide parking as long as there's transit within half a mile. That doesn't mean that just because the law states that you're going to go on and build a 3-bedroom ADU in your backyard, and now you have 3 additional cars on your front street, and you're just not being considerate of parking, right? Like, so yeah, that would be my only take. And then also, when you're building in certain neighborhoods like Los Altos, try to keep it very similar to the main house. If you're building.
Yeah, and what I sort of worry about is like, what is the setback to put that 2-story structure? Like, I'd say I wanted to take my garage and turn it into a 2-story structure, because now if it's just that normal setback, it becomes very encroaching, and so I would hope that people would take that into account. Or I don't know what the code is for the city, but I would like to see, hopefully, that's being taken into consideration.
That's a great point, because it should be taken into consideration, especially if you're building on top of the garage. You want to make sure you're within the height requirements, within the setbacks, and most importantly, the power pole. The power pole line, making sure it's on the opposite side of where the garage is at, because that can also be an added expense if you have to reposition that power
Yeah,
pole.
that's a big one, because then you got to bring in the electrical company, right? And they have to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a big one. All right. Okay, I can't. Is there some other question I should be asking?
No, I think you're pretty spot on with all the questions. What have you seen with your clients, and what do you think?
Yeah, I feel like talking to people in Los Altos. I have one client who's just wants to get her parents close to her somehow. And so, yeah, I mean, these ADUs are important, as an alternative for people, because she's calling up about a house that went on the market, and I told her, I said, okay, that house went on for under 900,000. It's probably going to close at 1.1. So that's not feasible, right? So it is. We're just in we're in a hard place with not a lot of land, more people. We've always got a housing crisis, and I think that I think it's here to stay. I think, what are we going to do, people?
100%.
We only have so much land, and the way LA was built out, yeah.
Well, I think that's a great point, and it's just about educating, going back to education and setting the expectation with people. When you get pushback for people who don't want to build ADUs or just have some negative connotation attached to it, they have to understand that we're in LA. You know, we don't have enough land, and the land that we do have, we were being forced to live denser. That's the reality of it, right?
Yeah.
We have to live denser, and we have to somehow hedge against inflation and help with affordability housing, and we need more housing. So it's also a great way to hopefully get us there with more housing in a shorter period of time. Because I will say that comparing ADU and SB9, I'm still more for ADUs because one, the ADU process has been streamlined, you know, in most cities,
Right.
whereas SB9 is a very new concept and we don't know how long that's going to take. I think permits for that might take, I don't know, like 13 months versus 6 months, right? Or
Right.
8 months for the build out or for the permits. So yeah.
Do you know the statistics, how many permits are out there in Long Beach for ADUs right now?
Um,
Do you keep on top of that?
Not specifically in Long Beach. I know that as a whole, between 2018 and 2020, there have been over 23,000 ADUs built in California, 34,000 in the permitting process. And
That's
these were stats that were given in the webinar that the White House did back in February. So they've had two webinars dedicated to ADUs. There was one in February where they rolled out with these stats that I thought it was so cool because I'm like, all right, 23,000 ADUs built between 2018 and 2020. I think those numbers are going to double, you know.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm surprised actually the 34,000 isn't higher, but yeah, I think you said we're
right.
just gonna, yeah.
Yeah, and that these were stats from back in February. So now we're in June. I don't know what that, but I know that Long Beach and Santa Ana have a lot of ADU projects going on right now, and I'm proud, you know, to be from Long Beach because it's one of the cities that actually has a pretty streamlined process. They even have pre-approved ADU plans ready to go, and so yeah, and their goal is to build a lot more this year. So I'm excited for that.
All right, so I have a question for you. So, some people, I guess, stick build them, and then some people have them craned over and dropped in the
Oh,
backyard.
the
Which,
manufactured ones.
yeah, which
I'm
way
not
are they
all
mostly going? Mostly stick built, or
mostly stick built because if you really want to leverage everything about ADUs, which is not only the cash flow and the passive income, but the equity and appreciation, you know, with time, I would much more geared towards stick build versus manufactured. And then going back to keeping the integrity of certain neighborhoods, like I just don't know what these neighborhoods will look like in the future if you got a whole bunch of like mobile home type of things in your backyard, right? Some people are for it. Don't get me wrong. There's a company called Boxable, which kind of delivers a 500 square foot little ADU that can basically build on its own and they just set it in your backyard. But that's really not going to give you a lot of value. It may give you cash flow in the short term, but in the long term, it's not the greatest
it's
way to go.
okay,
I'm more for stick build. Yeah,
okay.
that's just me though.
It's just like it's so. I want like I sort of want to
It
see
may
what
work out though,
you
right?
know.
Like those cottage types of homes. Here's the other thing too that I would like to say is in certain markets, you have to know what ADUs are more favorable. So like LA County, we have a lot of garage conversions and a lot of ground up construction in our backyards, right? If you have a pretty decent lot size, you can build back there. But out in Portland, I have a friend named Jen. She's very focused in ADUs in Portland, and in Portland, you see a lot of basement conversions.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, in Houston, you see a lot of detached, like cottage types of ADUs. So understanding what ADUs work for you in your market, then you can definitely target that and just stay within that space, you know. So I would say consider what's popular in your market, and yeah, and then start building out your network and your team because it really is about your network and who you know. I don't think that I'd be as empowered in the ADU space if I didn't have the connections and relationships that I have. You know, I have developers that I can call or text if I don't understand something, if I need an explanation on the process. And I've been to a lot of ADU appointments. Actually, I was with one with Cameron not that long ago. I don't know. Cameron works at ADU West Coast, which I'm sure you've heard of. They're very popular. They're based out of Seal Beach, and they have a lot of projects in Huntington Beach area, Long Beach, and LA.
And they're stick built. He's a
Stick build.
Okay.
Stick build. And I'm actually, the event that I'm doing on the 24th is in collaboration with him. So if you come to the event, I'll introduce you to him and you can start building out your own team. You know, it's just really that simple. You build out your team that you trust, because at the end of the day, we're doing this for our clients, and so we want to make sure that we're connecting them with the right people, because you know how it goes, Michelle. Like, soon as shit hits the fan, sorry, I don't know if I can cuss, but
this is why I sort of like your Instagram. I'm like, all right, girl. Oops.
Yeah, you know, like when things hit the fan, who do they call? Us.
Right.
And
to have, you know, and I do pride myself on being able to give good referrals. I think that is so important we bring to the table. And I like vet, and anybody out there listening, you know, if I give you a name, the last thing I say to you is you have to promise to come back to me and tell me how it went, because you know, so yeah, I think we're on the same page there.
Yeah, and you understand how people work by working with them, but most importantly, understanding who they are as a person behind their company. What are their core values? What do they stand for? I'm a mother, I'm a single parent, but I have an 8-year-old son, and like all that stuff matters to me. I want to make sure that who I'm working with, I can bring my son. I don't feel awkward, and everything is in alignment. And they respect what I do. I respect what they do, and I know that my client will be taken care of, because it is a reflection of our business. It's an extension of our business. So this year I'm really hyper focused and just making meaningful connections, like making connections with you. You know, it was awesome meeting you at that event. And I don't really talk about politics. I have 2 rules. I don't talk about politics on my Instagram or religion. But I will say that, you know, I got to meet a lot of dope people that day. And so I'm really grateful for that. I think regardless of what political team you're on, these groups these community collaboration events are great, because it was about politics, but we also talked about other things and other ways that we can help the community.
I totally agree. I think that being around politics and politicians, it is, because it's right. This is the community. So yeah, but not going down the path.
No, I'm with you on that.
Oh my gosh.
Let's stay in our real estate lane.
Stay real estate, Michelle. All right, Steph, it was great. Everybody check her out on Steph Sells Homes. She's got all the links there to that upcoming on June 24th in Huntington Beach. And yeah, thank you so much for being on here, and I'm sure we'll see each other again.
Thank you so much, Michelle. I'm going to tag you on Instagram, so let me just take a quick video here. You know me.
Okay, and then I'm going to send you an audio, just like, okay, how did you do that on Instagram? Okay, did I look okay? I don't know.
You look amazing.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Thank you so much. All right. Well, I'll talk to you soon. Thank you, and have a good weekend, everybody. Please make sure you guys follow Michelle. She's awesome here in Long Beach, and great person to have on your team.
Thanks a lot, Steph. Have a good one. Bye now.
Bye.